Ramadan is the holiest and normally the most joyous time of the year for Muslims, but faced with constant bombardment and a looming famine, how are people in Gaza able to observe it this year? Hello and welcome to Roundtable. I'm Enda Brady. A global authority on food security says that more than 1 million people in Gaza, that's roughly half the population, could face a famine in the coming months. Israel's war on the territory has seen no let-up during Ramadan, when Muslims fast from dawn to dusk. TRT World's Nizar Sadawi is in the southern Gaza city of Rafah, where he's been meeting people trying to come to terms with observing Ramadan amid devastation.
Ramadan in Gaza used to be a period of festive joy and community, but now everything is different. Now it's marred by the ongoing Israeli airstrikes and a rising death toll, with over 31,000 Palestinians having perished. The usual vibrancy and anticipation of this holy month have been extinguished amid widespread destruction and mourning. The war has also displaced over 3/4 of Gaza's 2.3 million inhabitants. Actually, UNRWA, the UN largest agency, says more than 85% of Palestinians here have become internally displaced, most of them here in Rafah, where we are. And the situation continues to worsen. Now, the festive Ramadan atmosphere, once marked by decorations, special foods, and family reunions, is notably absent. Although it's crowded here, but not all of these people can actually afford to buy anything to eat or drink. And of course, it's worse in the northern areas of Gaza. Gaza's infrastructure is also devastated. Homes and jobs, dreams, everything is in ruins. And disease is still spreading rapidly. Hunger is widespread, acutely impacting the entire population, including more than 155,000 pregnant and nursing women facing soaring malnutrition. So far, 28 Palestinian children have died of malnutrition and dehydration. The health system is on the brink of collapse, with hospitals overrun and lacking resources. 32 out of 35 hospitals are currently out of service. And for the people of Gaza, without a ceasefire coming, the situation will definitely become more disastrous. Here in Rafah, people are actually anticipating a ground operation. And what worries them the most is that they had already prayed and hoped for a ceasefire to come before the holy month of Ramadan starts. Now, Ramadan has already started, and it might even draw to a close before the war ends. Nizar Sadawi, TRT World, Rafah, southern Gaza.
Well, let's meet our guests. Here with me in the studio is Kamel Hawwash, a Palestinian academic, analyst and writer. Shazia Arshad is Head of Communications and Creative Content at Islamic Relief UK, which is a charity. And Yousef Al Helou is a Palestinian political analyst, writer and commentator. You're all very welcome to this roundtable. Yousef, I want to start with you. First of all, just bring us up to date, your family in Gaza. What is the latest?
About 500,000 Palestinians who live in the northern part of Gaza, including my family, they have been starving to death for the past 3-4 months. And the genocide is ongoing for the past 6 months. They are not only have to face the starvation, but also the bombs. It's very, very dangerous circumstances. And we thought that they withdrew their forces from Gaza, but in the last few days, they raided Shifa Hospital and Gaza City again. They just are increasing the pressure.
And this Ramadan is obviously unspeakable compared to the Ramadan of your childhood when you were in Gaza?
This is the saddest Ramadan ever that Palestinians have to face since 1948. There are no joy atmosphere. Rituals are vanished. Israel destroyed mosques, destroyed livelihoods, the civic life. People have been fasting anyway for the past 6 months. They have no food. And even though the lucky ones who survived this genocide, when they gather around the table, they only break their fast on dates or cans. 10 people in the family, they just share that can. And also when they do suhoor, before they start the fasting, also the bombardment targeting them. So it's fasting amidst bombardment.
Shazia, just give us an insight into the extraordinary work Islamic Relief are doing. I mean, this is an unprecedented situation. How bad is it and what are you hearing?
I mean, the situation is devastating, and it has been since October 2023. And what we've been hearing from our teams on the ground is that the situation is getting progressively worse every single day. But I think yesterday's announcement by the IPC was, for us, even more devastating. It says that the risk of famine is now imminent. And we have been raising these warnings, NGOs have been raising these warnings, and the UN and international bodies have been raising these warnings for months now. And there is a real need to make sure that not only there is a permanent ceasefire, but that aid can get in. And that's not happening, and that means that people are literally being starved.
Kamel, Ramadan is normally a time of fasting and charity and spirituality, and it's a very, very important month for the Muslim people. This Ramadan in Gaza, I can't imagine what people are going through.
First of all, for people fasting outside Gaza, they feel guilty because they can get at least 2 meals a day, iftar and suhoor. They might have some sweets, but they know as they sit and eat, and they might sometimes, unfortunately, have to have a TV station showing us what's happening in Gaza. This time in Gaza, first of all, Gaza has been destroyed. Let's be absolutely clear. People have lost homes, they've lost schools, they've lost hospitals. I'm an academic, and to see a university being blown up for no reason whatsoever is the background to the fact that in Ramadan, they can't have a normal Ramadan. The shortage of food is horrendous. And let's be clear, Israel is deliberately starving the Palestinian people. It's using starvation as a weapon, and it should be held accountable for that. And any world leader who sides with Israel as it does that is completely complicit in what is happening.
Yousef, going back to your childhood and prayer and the mosques, they're pretty much all gone now, aren't they?
It's a memory now. I remember when I was in Gaza, we had rituals, preparations, buying special meals for Ramadan. People pray Tarawih, the night of prayer, and then people visit each other, and it's a time for charity, a time for unity. The children, they play with the fanus, the lanterns, and it was really lovely time, despite living under a crippling siege for the past 17 years. But now everything is gone. It's really outrageous that the Palestinians have been trying for the past 7 decades to prove to the world that we are the victims. Israel is the victimizer. And Israel can get away with these crimes because it enjoys impunity, and it has never been held accountable. And it's outrageous also that the Western governments, Biden himself, he sends aid to Gaza through the parachuting, and at the same time sends bombs to Israel to bomb the starving people.
Can I just ask Shazia, I saw a picture the other day on social media that I found heartbreaking. It was a family breaking their fast, and what was on the table was basically a meal made out of grass and herbs. There was no sustenance, there was no calorific value. And you almost got the impression that they were the lucky ones that they even had that.
I mean, I think this is the crucial point, is that one of the biggest challenges we have at the moment is getting the aid in. And right now we can't get aid in, and what we are desperately asking for is to be able to get that aid in because people desperately need that food to be able to survive. And that food isn't coming in the quantities that's needed. And then when it is coming in, there are serious concerns about the speed at which the very limited amount of aid that's coming in is coming in. Before October, about 80% of the population were reliant on aid. That percentage has gone significantly up. And then if we were going to meet the current need, we would need at least 800 trucks of aid coming in a day. We're getting between 100 to 200 trucks on average a day, which tells you that we're nowhere close to meeting the need. And of course, that's going to lead to the devastating sights of those sorts of pictures that you've seen where people just simply don't have enough to eat because the food isn't there, because the aid isn't getting in.
Kamel, famine is now a very real prospect.
Well, in northern Gaza, it's there. Because despite the fact that Shazia talked about the number of trucks that are able to get in, they're not really making their way to the north because Israel stops them. Israel, as I said, is deliberately starving the Palestinian people. And in northern Israel, it isn't just a case of starvation, it's a case of attacking journalists so they can't show what Israel is doing to the rest of the world. Over 130 journalists have been killed by Israel. And yesterday at the Shifa hospital, they took, I think it was 12 journalists and camera people and so on, held them, beat them up before releasing them later. But the whole idea is it does not want to show the world what a criminal state it is.
Can I just ask Yousef, the Islamic concept of tawakkul, which is trust and reliance in God, the people of Gaza are being tested like never before this Ramadan.
The Palestinians of Gaza, Palestinians in general, they are a source of inspiration and steadfastness. And so many people around the world are moved by the resilience and by the faith, the Muslim faith. Palestinians in Gaza losing their loved ones and say, Alhamdulillah. Tawakkul, of course, people say that everything is written. It's Allah's wish that this person's died or killed, or what's happening is all planned. But of course, they have a sense of negligence and abandonment. They say that the Muslim world should intervene, the Arab world should intervene. It's ironic that millions of people they take to the streets in Western capitals, whereas in the Muslim world, Arab world, they are watching. It's a sense of also sadness and sorrow that those hungry Palestinians, they are being watched by millions. It's the first digital genocide that is broadcasted by the victims. And also the famine that is happening in Gaza should remind us of the famine that happened in Ireland in the late 1800, and which pushed many Irish people to migrate to the States. Biden himself has roots in Ireland, and he should be ashamed of himself.
His ancestors were amongst those who were forced out of Ireland.
Yeah, because of the famine.
In the 1800s. It is quite appalling. Take me back to your childhood. I've seen some wonderful pictures on social media in the last few weeks of previous Ramadans in Gaza. The colour, the sights, the community spirit. I mean, how do you feel this Ramadan seeing family and friends going through what they're being put through?
It's very, very heartbreaking to see, all these nice places, families sort of torn apart, to see that my lovely city was destroyed. When I was walking in the alleyways of Zawiya market, the traditional market, and now it's gone. I was there in the summer, only 1 month before this genocide. I prayed many times in Al Umari Mosque, which dates back 1,000 years old mosque. I remember the Taraweeh prayers. I remember, the hustling and bustling atmosphere in Rimal neighborhood, in the Unknown Soldiers Square. Everything has become memory. And it's really shocking that the world is allowing this to happen. And it will take some time for people to wake up from this trauma. Some people say, we wish if it's like a nightmare, and we wake up to see Gaza is beautiful again.
Shazia, a lot of people watching will be wondering, how can they help? People are feeling quite helpless abroad following all of this. What would you say to them?
I mean, I think the first thing that we would say, from our perspective, has definitely been to keep calling for a ceasefire. And that has to be the first thing that we're all doing, and signing petitions, writing to your MP or your respective governments, wherever you might be watching. And then, of course, the donations are a crucial lifeline because they allow us to be able to get that aid in. So, if you want to be able to help, you can visit islamic-relief.org.uk or search for Islamic Relief on the internet and donate. And that really helps us to get aid in and procure the local supplies that people so desperately need.
And just give us some insight into what you're dealing with in terms of getting aid in. Have you got trucks ready to go and they're not getting in?
So we have been able to get in some trucks. Definitely need to be able to upscale the amount of aid that we're able to get in. We've also been working with local partners to procure goods within Gaza, but the reality is that the need right now is so significant that we need to be able to massively upscale the aid delivery and what our teams are able to deliver on the ground. I mean, at the moment during Ramadan and even prior to Ramadan, we've been doing a lot of hot meals, but they are just a very small drop in the ocean as to what's needed. And what we really need to be able to do is increase the amount of aid that we're able to deliver.
Kamel, on the aid front, how do you feel about how little action we've seen from international partners not putting pressure on Israel to allow the aid in? I mean, why won't they allow the aid in?
Because they have sided with Israel completely, if you mean governments, by partners, right from the outset. I mean, don't forget, Biden said he was a Zionist. He is a Zionist. He has said if Israel wasn't there, they would have to create it. The Secretary of State, Blinken, on his first visit to Israel, said, I am here not as the Secretary of State, but as a Jew. So they upped the sort of support for Israel to be completely blind. Yes, we hear them say now, we must increase the aid. And America, the most bizarre sight is American aid being parachuted in. They can easily tell Israel to allow that aid in. They choose not to. And I have to emphasize that because they could take a much stronger stance by saying, we will not supply you with weapons. We will not use the veto at the UN. This is America in particular. But they choose not to because they are completely complicit. But on the Palestinians and their resilience, I want to remind people of a poem by Rafif Ziada, who said, we Palestinians teach life, sir. And that's what they are doing. Despite everything they are facing, they are showing how they continue to try and get up every morning and try and get back to a normal life. And for that, they should be absolutely admired for their braveness.
Well, one extraordinarily brave individual on the ground in Gaza is Bisan Auda. She is a Palestinian journalist and she documents her life on a very regular basis on social media. This is what she's been saying this Ramadan.
Hey everyone, Ramadan Kareem. Today is the 5th day of the holy month of Ramadan, when around 1 billion Muslims fast around the world for the whole day. Since the beginning of the day, the sunrise, to the last of the day, to the sunset, eating only 2 meals. The first meal is the suhoor, to start the day. Then the second meal is the futur, to break their fast. But yesterday, 200 men left their homes in the north of Gaza Strip to the Kuwaiti roundabout, where the humanitarian aid is distributed, like a Rashid Street. But they did not get back again with any flour. They went to grab some flour to bake bread for the suhoor. They did not come back again, because the Israeli army opened fire on them and bombed them, and also bombed the people who tried to rescue them. The only thing who remained after the massacre happened yesterday was the flour bags with blood in the 5th day of Ramadan.
Yousef, that's an insight into life on the ground in Gaza right now. I read recently that people have been reduced to grinding animal feed into flour to have anything to kind of cook or make anything with.
That's correct. And they also had to grind birds' grains in order to make flour and use the flour to bake bread. I also heard some shocking story that some people had to eat horse meat just to survive. So nowadays, what people are eating, luckily it's the winter season, they eat weed plants like khubeza, mlokhia, something edible, and some other herbs. They dig in the soil and they try to retrieve what they can. When I talked to my family 3 months ago, they said, we are rationing our food. They only were having soup and a little bit of rice. And even though I've sent them some money, everything is very expensive, like 10 times the price, and they run out of money. So what's happening is really shocking, that the world is allowing this famine to happen. The last time we've heard about famine was in Somalia, like decades ago. And we never expected in our lifetime to see people starve to death using starvation as a weapon.
Shazia, I remember Growing up in Ireland in the 80s, there was a famine in Africa, in Ethiopia. Bob Geldof rallied a load of celebrities together and they made records, they had concerts, they raised money. There's none of this for Gaza.
I mean, I think the difficulty has always been, how do we deal with a situation which, in this case, is entirely man-made? This is a man-made famine. As a relief agency, you know, we are used to responding to humanitarian disasters, but they are often as a result of natural disaster. Where we are responding in this situation, it's as a result of a man-made famine that could entirely be stopped. And what we really need to see is people coming together and working out how we can stop that. The situation doesn't need to be the way that it is, and it doesn't need to play out as it is. But until international parties come together to be able to get a ceasefire on the table and to be able to get aid in more quickly, we're going to be dealing with the results of this famine, man-made famine, for years to come.
Israeli-made famine, some would say. Can I just ask, at what point do you feel things might change, that you will be allowed to get aid in, that Israel will allow more aid trucks in, and that can happen? I mean, do you think we're getting closer to that?
I mean, we hope every day that we get closer to that. I suppose the challenge that we see at the moment is international pressure, and we need international governments really to up the ante and say to all the parties involved in being able to get aid in, let's make the conditions possible and let's get that aid in. And we don't need to see, for example, a port being built by, the US. What we need to see are the land routes, which are viable routes to get aid in, being made accessible so that those trucks can get in and get in quickly.
That's a good point, Kamel, isn't it? I mean, we've seen lots of discussion about a man-made jetty or port to land material off boats, but it just takes a gate to open in Rafah, isn't it?
And every day people die. This is the reality. The other thing is, people talk about that this is man-made by Israel, i.e. the government. But let's be clear, Israeli citizens have been standing and blocking the aid going in. The Israelis have lost their moral compass. What is being done now is not self-defense. It is the deliberate starving, the deliberate killing, the deliberate demolition to drive the Palestinians out. The extent of revenge they want is horrifying, really. And because the world says, yes, carry on to the government, they feel emboldened to do that. I mean, the concert you described, what was the main song? Feed the world. We want to feed Gaza. Now, that is the primary objective for everyone, is to open these crossings so people can eat and can recover their dignity. There are very proud people who've been reduced to having nothing, no electricity for months now. I mean, just imagine all of us just having no electricity for one day, but they've had no electricity in many areas for 6 months. No homes, no regular food, no choice. I saw a girl smiling because she had a chicken to eat in her hands that somehow they managed to obtain. It shows you how Israel's vengeance has resulted in this such hatred that the Israeli citizens, and I return to that, are absolutely happy to see these sites because they do not care about the life of the Palestinians. And that's the most outrageous thing I've seen in this war.
Yousef, I've seen some really appalling material on social media mocking Gazans and saying that Ramadan will be easy this time because they're fasting and they will fast for months. I mean, this is very distressing to see this kind of content being allowed to be carried on supposedly respectable social media platforms.
Well, this is the immorality that the Israeli society are enjoying, mocking Gazans who have no food, they have no electricity, as Kamel said. And it shows that the kind of mentality, the psychopath, mentality, that they don't consider Palestinians as a human. They treat us as subhumans. And they continue to dehumanize us, continue to demonize us, that we don't deserve to live. Everybody celebrated what happened, all of them involved, kill them all, nuke them and kill at least 100,000 people. So at the end of the day, the world knows their nature. They expose themselves and they are not shying away to broadcast and share these videos on TikTok. That's why they are planning to buy TikTok. It's shocking also that they are dealing their fellow human beings in this brutality, in this savagery. I haven't seen any Israeli official or an Israeli journalist who share any of our videos of our children who are torn apart, of our famine. They just don't consider exist.
Can I ask Yousef, you've obviously celebrated Eid many times in Gaza. When Eid happens this year, what will it be like?
I think it's going to be the saddest Eid ever. I don't think people have time even to wake up from the trauma. It's sadness and frustration and agony, and people are weeping, or they do not know the fate of their loved ones being abducted by the Israeli military. If you walk in some streets in Gaza, you will see graves on the roads, in the alleyways. People are stepping on dead bodies. Israel, they bulldozed 16 cemeteries around Gaza. There are no homes for people to live. There are no toys to buy for children. There are no meals, nothing. Everything is vanished. And this is what Israel wants. It wants to send Gaza to the Stone Age, to collectively punish everybody in order to make life miserable and hard, so that people unilaterally leave. It's a continuation of the ethnic cleansing that it had started in 1948.
Kamel, Shazia and Yousef, thank you all for your insight. Remember, you can see more discussion and debate on our YouTube channel. Search for Roundtable TRT World. But for now, from me, Enda Brady, and all of the team here, goodbye and thank you for watching.